Hi, my name is Leah Bailey, and I will soon be releasing my brand new collection, Coffee and Paper Cuts. As part of the kind of pre-event build-up, I thought I would share with you guys some of my author journey. Coffee and Paper Cuts, as well as my earlier collections, all kind of started in my author journey here. The first book obviously started elsewhere and kind of built up, but the main kind of movement from my writing to reality started right here, this table, and this bar. I know that seems strange, but I've been writing at coffee shops and bars since I was young, since I was a teenager, all the way back in the US. And so learning how to write was never my problem. I paid attention in English, I was good at English, probably why I became an English teacher. But becoming an author, a published poet, from being just a writer or a regular poet or somebody who writes poems every now and again is a completely different kettle of fish. And every time I looked into it, every time I thought about sending off spec letters and query letters and, trying to look at the poetic market and try to approach an agent or find an agent, I never could manage to get over the amount of research that would be required to find that kind of thing. It used to panic me. I didn't really know how to market myself. I didn't really know how to approach this concept of going from creation to reality, creation to publication. Because obviously I can share my poems as much as possible, but if I don't actually have them in a book on a shelf that somebody can get, or if I don't have it so that I can actually, sell it to someone else, only the people I know are going to experience my work. And a lot of the stuff that I wanted to share with the world in my poetry needed me to be able to reach beyond that. So the first kind of step was getting over the fear. And a lot of that was helped by my publisher, Danny Bleckner, from Conscious Dreams Publishing. Daniela has a way of kind of setting you at ease by taking on all the things that make no sense to a creator. That being said, I learned a lot with my first book. My first book and my first experience with publishing. For instance, I didn't know that I would write my own blurb. I thought the back of the book was written by someone else, by the publisher, by I don't know who. But for some reason, the concept of writing the blurb to interest people in my book didn't really kind of compute. Didn't really process that. In terms of after that, writing the author bio. Again, that's something I thought was written by someone else. I thought that was written by someone who knew what they were talking about, who did sat down, maybe did an interview with the writer. The concept of writing the author bio, which is always in the third person, seemed really odd. Also, bigging yourself up or impressing people with your author bio seemed a weird kind of arrogant thing to do. And of course, talking about oneself in third person is not something that Leah enjoys. Leah does not enjoy talking about herself in the third person. I'm not sure anyone who is not crazy enjoys talking about in third person. But of course, author bios are in the third person. I tried to put a little humor in there, and that was helpful. But learning how to write the bio, learning how to write acknowledgments, and learning how to write the blurb, these were things I thought were written always by someone else whenever I read books. And, introductions I knew were sometimes written by the author, but sometimes written by somebody else. And it was just like a whole new experience of all this stuff, in addition to the poetry, that had to go into a poetry volume or any volume. The second thing I really learned in my first experience early on in my author journey was about organizing and editing before submission. it was really, really difficult. It took me about 3 different tries to get the order of my poems in the right place. Do I do it chronologically or thematically, or do I ask someone else to do it for me? Do I consider how many pages things are so that it would go in the correct pagination that I want to? And that was something that developed over the multiple volumes that I've now published with Conscious Dreams, because I would say that my understanding of where to put what and how it will eventually look is a lot different now than it was then. Then I was thinking more about the content of the poems in terms of the order and what pages they were going to be on, but I didn't really consider about poems that went over more than one page, or consider about poems in columns or not in columns, and how it would look in terms of anything other than the content and flowing from one poem to the next. So these little things that you learn on your author journey can be very, very daunting, and I can't even imagine doing it without the help of Conscious Dreams Publishing and her whole team. Now, they were really understanding, really forgiving, really helpful, and always there to respond. Yes, there are, office hours, and there are the hours between this and that that you want to communicate with your publisher, but even in the case of me writing a random crazy email at random o'clock at night, I knew that I could depend on the next day during those hours to be responded to. And so, there's always this care that I felt with that. And I do know that regular publishing routes and agents and all of that have that capability, but it's very important for me as a writer to be able to trust that my publisher cares about me as much as they do their own business, that they care about my vision as much as I do. Not just their profit margin or their company, although that is very important to them, as it should be, but also equally knowing that the creative has some stake in it as well. So my recommendation for anybody looking for an author, even if you decide not to go with Conscious Dreams Publishing, although honestly I can't imagine why anybody doesn't, even if when you choose your publisher, choose very carefully and make sure you meet them and make sure you talk to them to find out that their goals and your goals match up. That it's not just some kind of factory, because that can be, I have discovered through talking to many poets, that is a thing. So make sure that they meet you and you meet them, and that's the way that you organize that concept, that you are both on the same page and that all of those pages match up to what you think they are. So, coming to you from Birdie's Bar, where I will be holding my book launch on May 22nd, which is a Sunday, where I will introduce you to my 3rd collection of poetry, coffee, and paper cuts. I would encourage you to please, if you want to come join me in this fabulous place, to buy or register for your free ticket. I wouldn't say buy, but obviously they're free tickets, so please register for your ticket and come join me for a party. We'll talk poetry, you'll be able to see my books and my work. I'll be doing some competitions closer to the time where you yourself can own a poster of some of the prints of my illustrations and possibly a book. So register for your ticket, come and join me for a poetry party in this very bar, Birdie's Bar, at close to this very table where I wrote most of the poems, and I hope to see you there. I'll talk to you next week a little bit more about my author journey. Bye.